My Lords, I stand to move my motion that these regulations should not apply. These regulations apply only in Northern Ireland. My Lords, we now have a functioning Northern Ireland Assembly. Abortion is a devolved matter. The Assembly voted to reject these regulations on the 2nd of June. The wording of the motion was to reject these regulations. 75 of our 90 MLAs voted against these provisions for grounds of disability. My Lord, 79% of respondents rejected these proposals when the NIO carried out their short consultation. In the past few days, over 18,000 people have signed an open letter to peers and MPs. I sent it to all of you on Friday. They ask that you listen to them and to the Northern Ireland Assembly and do not approve these regulations. The Government has said that the vote is of no consequence. Northern Ireland must comply with its international human rights obligations. My Lords, the CEDAW Convention does not mention abortion. Article 29 is clear that nobody has the power to read in rights, and none have been read in. The report of the unelected, non-judicial UN CEDAW Committee is not international law. There is no international legal obligation to pass these regulations. Parliament voted last July to require compliance with 85 and 86 of CEDAW. The obligation makes it one of national law, not international law. What Parliament makes, Parliament can unmake. We could repeal Section 9. There are no international human rights obligations deriving from the CEDAW report. The Government says it has to table these regulations. That's not right. Section 9 says that, having tabled a set of amendments, the Secretary of State has a discretion, not a duty, to make further regulations. My Lords, there are 41 speakers in this debate. 8 of us from Northern Ireland have just 13 minutes. The other 77 minutes is for other members not from Northern Ireland. 90 minutes is not enough. There were no Northern Ireland members on the JCSI or the SLSC. The SLSC drew the regulations to the special attention of the House because Parliament was denied an opportunity for scrutiny. This is the first occasion on which your Lordships have been able to consider this radical change. No opportunity for amendment. Some of these regulations don't even comply with CEDAW. Paragraph 85 expressly stipulates that expanded access to abortion on the basis of disability must be made without perpetuating stereotypes towards people with disabilities. That is what these regulations do. They afford viable unborn babies from 24 weeks gestation protection from abortion, while saying that viable babies of exactly the same age can be terminated just because they have a non-fatal disability. Is the Government interested in achieving compliance not with paragraph 85, but with approving the 1990 discriminatory law in Great Britain that's now subject to legal challenge? The regulations make sex-selective abortion lawful. There is no impediment to such abortion in the regulations. The Minister has written to Lady Eaton saying that the absence of an impediment does not mean that sex-selective abortion is permissible. In our legal system, anything that is lawful unless it is unlawful. Canada introduced access to abortion without conditionality, and the Canadian Medical Association Journal now says that it is regarded as a haven for sex-selective abortion. Identification of sex is available to pregnant mothers between 7 and 10 weeks of gestation. My Lords, the Government said this was an abhorrent practice which was illegal in Great Britain because the grounds on which one could get an abortion in Great Britain do not include the sex of a child. In January this year, the Government said that's what English law said. These regulations will make abortion up to 12 weeks lawful for any reason, which must include that the fetus is of the wrong sex. People think we're being asked to vote for this measure to signal that sex-selective abortion should be accommodated throughout the UK. The CEDAW Committee says, that it aligns itself with the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disability in the condemnation of sex-selective and disability-selective abortions, both stemming from the need to combat negative stereotypes and prejudices towards women and persons with disabilities. The regulations are silent on the matter of coercive abortion. The Istanbul Convention requires protection against coercive abortion. I know it hasn't been ratified, but we are supposed to be becoming more and not less compliant with it. In 2019, the government said Section 58 of the Offences Against the Person Act covers such behaviour. It has been decriminalised. This House voted to remove it. And the regulations failed to provide the explicit new offences promised by the government. The only penalty for any offence is an inadequate fine of up to £5,000. The Northern Ireland Attorney General and many other eminent QCs have argued that Regulations 7, 12 and 13 are ultra vires. This resulted in a letter that was sent to all members by a group of 38 peers and MPs from across the UK and 5 different political groupings, highlighting that these regulations are not intra vires. Indeed, repeal of part of the Criminal Justice Act is not even mentioned in the CEDAW report. The Secondary Legislation Scrutiny Committee expressed serious concerns about the inadequate nature of the consultation process. Be in no doubt, if you vote for these regulations, you will be giving discrimination a fresh mandate for GB, not just Northern Ireland. My Lords, these regulations are not consistent with Section 9. They've been rejected by the Northern Ireland Assembly. The proposals were rejected by 79% of respondents. Repeated demonstrations have occurred. An earlier letter was signed by 23,000 people to the Northern Ireland Minister. The regulations are not even compliant with CEDAW on disability discrimination and sex selection. This is not an international human rights obligation on the UK. My Lords, I ask you to listen to the people of Northern Ireland, listen to our Assembly. Do not approve these regulations. I will call a division.